Welcome to the Sociology channel. In this lecture, we are discussing about what is society. Why we are discussing about society? Because we are discussing about the basic concepts of sociology. And as they say that in its simplest sense, sociology is the science of society. So let us proceed further and dig into the meaning of this word society. As they say, sociology is simply the science of society. But what do we mean by society? A group of people living in a bounded territory who share common cultural features such as language, values, and basic norms of behavior. But will this definition help us into understanding the core thing which we would be studying in sociology, that is society? Does this definition suffices our purpose, or we need to dig further and look into the meaning of this? Giddens says that society means structured social and institutional relationship which has some kind of territory, and society could even be a small or could even be consisting of hundreds of millions of people. So that's why we have Indian society, American society, and we also have a basic discussion on a daily basis that I live in that society. That society is very bad, something like this. So let us proceed further with our discussion to understand the meaning of this word society by putting it in several contexts. This is Ludwig Wittgenstein. He is one of the greatest philosopher, and he says that the task of philosophy is investigating how language is used in everyday life. So, to understand the meaning of the word society, we will first look into the words, the list of words which I have collected, which we use in our everyday life. So, let us proceed further and read the list. You can see that can we understand sociology by focusing on only one society? Are we living in multiple societies? Are we part of a multiple society at the same time? Are we all living in different society? Are we all living in one society? Does one society represents every one of us? Post-colonialist society, colonialist society, agrarian society, industrial society, post-industrial society, society within society, homogeneous society, heterogeneous society. Our society, modern society, open society, conservative society, contemporary society, rural society, urban society, we are living in the same society. That's not a good society. When we use such sentences, we are basically referring to the apartment where we are living. So now let us proceed further and read this book, one paragraph from the book, to understand how the meaning of the society keeps on changing at different places. This is a very popular book. This is a popular book among anthropologists, sociologists, and people from educational studies also reads this book. Letter to a Teacher by 8 students of Barbiana. Barbiana is a village in Italy, and these students are writing to address the entire thing to parents. But the book is famous among all sociologists and educationists as well. Freedom. The other obstacle that you make no effort to remove is the sway of fashion. One day, Gyani told us while talking about TV, they keep us feeding us this junk. If they led us to a school instead, that's where we would go. He used the impersonal they. Now, see the word they. They is being used to refer to a particular group of people. who is feeding junk to these students. Understand how these students are talking about they and own experience. Understand how we refer to society. Samoa is a place, and two popular anthropologists wants to understand about this society. One is considered to be the founder, father or mother of anthropology, and her book is very popular among anthropologists and sociologists. Margaret Mead, she visited Samoa way back in 1925, some 100 years, and wrote the book Coming of Age in Samoa. And she discussed something about Samoa in this book, which was heavily critiqued by Derek Freeman, who visited Samoa in 1985, and he visited Samoa thrice. And he wrote a book whereby he argued that the book written by Margaret Mead and the manner in which she understood about Samoa, or she is discussing Samoa, is entirely wrong. And his entire life he kept on arguing this point, and that's why he visited Samoa thrice. Two great anthropologists visited the same society, concluded two different things. This is the main argument which I am making here. We all know about Captain Cook. We all have read in history that Captain Cook was considered as God by the native Hawaiians. We all know he died on Hawaiian island. Marshall Sahlins wrote a book, How Natives Think, about Captain Cook, for example. This is the name of the book. This is also a must read book for each anthropologist and sociologists. In this book, he argues that why natives of Hawaiian thought or considered Captain Cook as a god. Gananath Obisikare wrote a book, Apotheosis of Captain Cook, where he argues that the basic lens through which Marcel Sahlins is looking into the world of natives, especially of Hawaiian, is entirely wrong. And successfully, Gananath Obisikare argues that actually natives of Hawaiian did not consider James Cook, Captain Cook, as God. Same society, two different scholars concluding two different points. That's the argument I'm making here. So, are you getting the point that what happens when we are studying about a society? We could reach at what place? At two different places, minimum. What is your first society? That's the question. Think for a minute. Is it family? Why? Yes. Why? No. Now, let us read. I have developed these questions. Let us read these questions to understand the manner in which we could be using the word society with other concepts of sociology. Can education change society? How to make an equal society? How do historical events and collective memory shape the identity of a society? What are the effects of mass surveillance on privacy and individual freedoms within a society? What are the social implications of an aging population in modern societies? What is the impact of migration and immigration on the cultural fabric of a society? How do gender roles and expectations shape individuals' experiences within society? How does globalization affect cultural identities and social interactions within a society? How does media influence the perception of social issues in a society? To what extent does social class affect access to opportunities and resources in society? What role do cultural norms play in shaping the behavior and attitudes of individuals within a society? Pause for a moment and read these questions. These questions are developed from a perspective so that you understand the meaning of the word society, how it keeps on changing from one context to other. The main idea is to understand that, so that when you start thinking about society, you know that the word society could come to you even in present circumstances in 100 manners. And when you would be acting as a sociologist, you would be able to identify the society, the society in 100 manners. What is a society? Society consists of people, but it is lot more than people it consists of. So society does not just means population. We know that. It means too much beyond that. Too much beyond the people it consists of. Let us read this one very important line about society from Thomas Hyland Erickson. A society is not merely an aggregate of persons with certain formal characteristics in common, example language or religion, or simply a state or an otherwise delimited territory. More is required for a collection of persons and families to constitute a society. The point which is being made here by Thomas Hyland Erickson, understand these. Thomas Hyland Erickson's statement highlights that a society is more than just a collection of individuals. That is something I have written in bold, who share certain formal characteristics such as language or religion, or merely occupying a defined geographical territory. It could be anything. So basically, look into the definition and see that he is stressing on seven important things. He is highlighting seven important things. First thing, aggregate of persons with certain formal characteristics in common. He is identifying shared social relationships. He is identifying shared culture, norms and social normativity, institutions and social structures, shared history and memory, social cohesion and solidarity. Understand that what all elements he is identifying here. How we study society? We do a functional analysis, structural analysis, Marxist analysis, positivist analysis. I've just written few popular way to look into society. There are several other ways also which we'll see as we proceed further in our lectures to look into society. So I've just shared so that you understand that there are several formats, several methodologies through which we look into society. Now a question to you. What do you think and what do you know about the society of Kolkata's Sonagachi sex workers. First, what do you think? Also, what do you know about what society? Kolkata's Sonagachi sex workers society. This is a very important question so that you are able to understand the context of the word society. Now, let us read this definition from Maurice Godelier, how he is defining society. What are the connections, political, religious, economic, kinship, or other, that have the capacity to bring together groups and individuals who thereby form a society with borders that are known if not recognized by the neighboring societies, and so fuse them into an all encompassing whole that endows them with an additional overarching shared identity. So, see, he's clearly giving us a formula to identify the society, to understand that how many societies could be there. This is a very important definition of society. So, what he has actually said, this is a question mark. Is society an overarching structure which is encapsulating people? Argue it in your brain. Does this suffices our purpose to understand this word? Now, let's read this text from NCRT. Society was often compared with living organisms, and efforts were made to trace its growth through stages comparable to those of organic life. This way of looking at society as a system of parts, each part playing a given function, influenced the study of social institutions like the family or the school and structures such as stratification. Look into this paragraph and understand that how this text is making comparison between society and living organisms. Actually, Darwin's theory of evolution also impacted heavily sociologists' way of thinking about the historical timeline of sociology. Understand this analogy of living organism and how societies grow and change over time. Living organisms also grow and change over time. Understand that how this text is finding similarity between the stages of development in societies and the stages of living organisms. This paragraph is giving us a concept that society is a system of interconnected parts, and each part plays a specific role, each part plays a specific function, and they are working together to keep the social system alive and going. It is talking about a complex network, and each part is working in harmony with each other. We will understand that with what perspective this text is coming with. In next lecture, we will identify this. But presently, just look at how it is similing these two things, making this analogy, and how they are arguing it. So, actually, this approach is very important from stratification perspective. How we will do identify that the hierarchies of society, how many layers are there in society, how many factors which is influencing this society. Say, for example, power, capitalist system, wealth, social status, uh, government's authority, everything. So this paragraph is very important. That's why I shared it as it is with you. Read it and reread it multiple times. So society is a system of subsystems. This is a question mark. You need to argue this point within yourself. Thanks for joining me in this lecture. See you in next lecture. Thank you very much.